Hello, Cosplay World, back with the fourth segment of this 5-part series. If you're interested in seeing the series in its entirety, check out finalcosplaycore.com and get yourself a free 7-day trial for the Armory and all of the awesome content there within. And thank you for your support and helping us do what we do here and make all this cosplay awesomeness. Okay, now, what are we doing in this video set? Well, we're kind of putting together all of the odds and ends, but more specifically, we're taking care of the sewn bits and the parts that go on the arms and legs, more specifically. Hoorah! So, we're making some shoes. So, what we're doing here is some really old-fashioned rawhide shoes, and the way we're going to do this is with an old template. And I'm going to make sure they fit my feet and cut them out of this more than averagely thick leather. It's going to give us a nice flexible sole and still be able to handle most of the con damage from walking around, say, concrete or asphalt or things that would normally tear up a lighter material. So, awesome. It, however, is a pain in the butt to sew, so you see me using this hole punch to get the job done. We're going to be doing just a regular hand stitching to get this job done. We're not running this through my current equipment. That serger and my regular sewing machine will definitely not will not go through this material. It's too thick. I've learned that lesson in the most expensive way. At any rate, we have some nice soft leather for the top. It's going to be nice and flexible for me to stand on my toes because we're going to go with a digigrade kind of effect for this lizard person. And I want to be able to stand on my toes for as much of the photos as possible. I think even in my intro and outro, the showing them off, I try to be on my toes as much as I can be. So, it's going to be hand stitched on with some heavy thread, and I don't know how simple to make it. It's just regular running stitch through those holes we punched earlier. Now, this is actually kind of an important part. This is a thing I do with all of my claws or armor that extend beyond my fingers and my toes, because those things make a lot of contact with things at conventions. They scratch up the floor, they can touch a wall, things like that. They bump into people more commonly than other parts of my costumes, I find. Unless I've got some crazy stuff that just sticks out. Most of my interaction with the world at a convention is going to be with my hands and my feet. So I'm using Warbler, sorry, this is Wonderflex. Warbler or Wonderflex, they're interchangeable in this aspect as far as usage, because it's flexible. It will take an impact and then deflect or deform, and it'll be just fine. Heavier materials will A, possibly damage the material around you, or B, become damaged themselves. And while Warbler and Wonderflex, sure, you might have to repaint it, that's not a huge deal. Having to replace a whole section of plastic armor is much more of a pain in the butt. So, in the interest of not having to A, pay for some damages of accidentally kicking something, and B, not having to remake my armor a zillion times, my claws and my toes tend to be made from Warbler or Wonderflex. As a finisher, you see there, I'm gluing on a bit of a matching leather. Sorry, leather. This is actually leather. Just to finish that off. And it's done in the same way you might do old shoes. Now, they're left to cure under a bit of weight so that the contact cement can do its work. And it's going to be stitched up in the back. I'm going to go over it with a really thin thin thread, but then I'm going to give it a decorative stitch with the cross patterns, old-fashioned type thing. Okay, I'm also going to be folding over the edge and stitching that up as well, so we don't have a rough edge along the inside of the ankle. All right, shoes are done. Now, most of everything that I sewed for this project were A, tubes, or B, rectangles. So I've got a little cloth thing that goes around my neck. That's just a big rectangle, and I sewed it up in the back. That's all there is to it. I folded it inside out and ran a seam all along all the edges, and then stitched up in the back. What we have here, this red material, is a circle skirt, which very simply is a gigantic circle I cut out with a smaller circle where my waist is going to go, and I run a stitch all the way around it to hem up that edge. On the inside, I hem it up, but I leave a little bit of space in that hem to have a drawstring, and that's what I do there. Now, I do have some pants, and I just use a basic pants pattern, but I think I'll leave that for a different video. What I have been doing to kind of make my own pants, I can actually do it fairly easily without a pattern anymore, is there's a nice hip curve, and the hip curve is really good at getting that kind of crotch shape that you're going to need for a pants pattern, which the reason why I'm not going to go into the pants in particular is because I'm not really good, I don't have any good footage of it, so it's hard to explain. Sorry. The gloves are also going to be sewn up. We dyed some fabric for the face and the tail and any of the other exposed skin bits, and we're going to be sewing them up into tubes. Very simply, they're just tubes, and the trick here is just making sure they're big enough for me to fit into. And again, these are the pants. I'm ironing down the seams so that they fold over nicely when I run them to the serger. The trick here is that if the edge is not folded down or ironed down, when it runs through the serger or your sewing machine, it can kind of bulk up and leave you with a really lumpy section in your stitch. How do I explain that? And this is made from basically, I believe, is this the pants? I think this is the pants. No, these are not the pants. I can't. The pants and the skirt are made of slightly different materials. But what's really nice about this is I am not a really great seamstress, so if my lines aren't exactly right, the serger is going to clean all that up and give me a nice edge. I just have to fold it inside out, and then iron it like I did before. So, circle skirt was pretty easy. I believe there's some box pleats in the pants, which is you just basically fold it over and stitch it down again once, and they're not too complicated. Sorry again, I'm not the best in that regard. But let's move on to the arms. The stitching there along the edge of the armor is going to be hidden by the white tubing that I talked about earlier, the white fabric I cut into tubing. Their arms have this kind of weird joint on them, like they're mechanical, like a pin is in his arm. That's just going to be stuck directly to some gloves we're going to be modifying. I have some white gloves on hand, and I'm simply going to be cutting away the sections I don't need and replacing them with the yellow fabric based on what's exposed. And there is a kind of strap which is going to be on these. It's made, in this case, from ribbon, blue ribbon I had on hand, and it doesn't actually function. The entire piece is going to be glued and sewn to the arm piece, and so I don't have a zillion pieces to get on and off. One of the things I do try to accomplish is making sure that the last pieces, especially the arms tend to be, my hands and arms tend to be the last pieces, are the easiest to get on and off because they will be what limits my dexterity here. Now, you see this white ribbon? What it's going to be doing is it's going to be our mount for some rings. They're just decorative rings, and you can see me adding them to the armor here as a last minute decoration. I'm simply going to be sewing and gluing them in place and then hanging the rings from them. The rings themselves are just I believe they're shower rings. That's all. Just shower rings. Okay, so here you see me fighting with figuring out the layering on the gloves because they have this fin that it goes around the wrist, and I'm not exactly sure how I want to do that. So I'm wrestling with the order of operations here as far as that's concerned. If I want to sew up the inside edge of the fin first and then add it, or add the fabric first and then turn that inside out. I'm going to have to hand stitch all of this because the sewing machine just can't get in there. It's going to be a huge pain in the butt. So what I have is just a filler so that I can get in and out, and then enough to be able to get my hand in and finish up the work there. As you can see, just like with the shoes, my fingernails, the claws as they were, are going to be Wonderflex or Warbler if you have that on hand. I'm not going to need, I just paint them up white and they match the character. Hope you guys enjoy. The last section is going to be the Spear of the Glaive. Stick around. Hope you guys enjoyed. Good times to all. Hey, just want to say thanks for the support. I hope you're enjoying everything we do here.